You've just had a heavy session of electroshock therapy, and you're more relaxed than you've been in weeks. All those childhood traumas magically wiped away, along with most of your personality. Hello, everybody. What's this? 3 episodes in one day? It's almost like I'm getting better at this. It's almost like I got the trauma off my chest. That's great. Well, once again, hope everybody's staying warm. I hear lots of places are getting 7, 10, 14 inches of snow out there. That's pretty nuts. Got a buddy who lives up north who's... hope he's doing well. He seems to be doing okay. He's very smart. And he comes from icy climates in his lineage and his genealogy. So, you know, he's got a bit of an advantage there. So a viewer requests that I make a chi ball. Just like King Cobra JFS. Hell yeah, let's go. You see it, chat? You see it? You see it? Oh. There you go. Well, to be serious, meditative breathing is very important. It's something I practiced for many, many years, and it takes practice. 3 seconds in, 7 seconds out. That is something to practice. That's some homework for you. So there's a story, there's a Zen story, of a journeyman monk who had it all figured out. And his master told him to go out into the wilderness and meditate. And so he found a cave, and he meditated there. And he had a good time for a portion of time until a storm hit. And it was raging outside of the cave, and it was hard to meditate. And then he heard a growling coming from inside of the cave, and it became even harder to meditate. And he eventually ran away in fear. Well, he learned a lot. But ultimately, he would have ascended even farther in his practice, the practice that he chose, if he decided to weather the storm and use it as an opportunity to leverage his willpower against the environment and to ascend his practice to a state by which nothing externally can mess with him. That's the exact sort of practice that leads to people being confident in self-immolation, and self-immolation is very, very painful. It's just about being able to meditate through that pain that allows people to stay completely still throughout it, because eventually your muscles will lock up and you can't. But with a period of time, every bit of struggle is just a prolonging of the inevitable. And so, as you know, there are many Buddhist monks that have self-immolated. One of the most famous cases was a monk that self-immolated to protest the conditions in Vietnamese prisons. And he contained a straight face throughout the entire experience. And there's also some Zen stories about, say for one, of a female monk who self-immolated, that as the flames were rising up, she told one of her students says, "Does it hurt?" And she said, "Of course it hurts, you jackass!" So they're not denying the fact that it is very painful, but what they're teaching is to be able to go past that pain. And I think that is the fundamental lesson that people need to internalize if they want to if they want to have the courage to martyr themselves in a way that's meaningful, instead of being pushed, not shepherded, but herded like prey animals into a trap, which is exactly what the princes and principalities of the world have many, many, many centuries of practice, if not millennia of practice, setting up. So I love all dogs. I really do. I'm really good with dogs. I'm the sort of person you'll want in your neighborhood if you have a loose dog, because I'll get that dog under control and I'll find the place where it belongs. I've done this many, many times. Pit bulls, not an issue. But about that, 4 dogs, and 2 of them are very, very similar. Rottweilers, pit bulls, American Staffordshire Terrier, I believe that's what they're called. I'm not sure they're Staffordshire, just American Pit Bull Terrier, I think that's the name. And Belgian Malinois, which is mostly the army, and German Shepherds, which is mostly the police. Now, of course, you have some of the nicest dogs in the world that are well-trained German Shepherds and Belgian Malinois. There's a lot of Belgian Malinois around where I live. They're a very, 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 very loving and protective dog, but they also need a lot of space, and a lot of times they're not given enough space and they get very anxious, and that anxiety leads them to hunt and fight and stuff like that. Hunting where there's nothing to hunt, which ends up leading to anybody who has kind of a sense of anxiety or fear about them becoming the prey, because that's the instinct. So not every dog has a lab temperament, and even labs can be mistrained into violent dogs, and you can only sick a dog like the German Shepherd on human beings for so many generations, not centuries, but like for a full century now or more. You can only sick German Shepherds on people for so long until they stop being shepherds and start being people hunting dogs. And I think that's a big issue that you see. And with the Belgian Malinois, it's something that has been going on through the military, where they're basically the hunting dog of the military, the people hunting dog of the military. And that's not necessarily good. That leads them to being even more potentially violent than pit bulls, which are dog hunting dogs. Or dog fighting dogs, which is a sick spectacle, in my opinion. Nobody should normalize the, dog fighting origins of pit bulls. The British were sick in the head for that. But the name Rottweiler and how aggressive Rottweilers gives you a little bit of hint about where the progenitor of a lot of this violence comes from. And I'll let you decide that, because if you know, you know. If you don't worry about it. Treat dogs with confidence. Love, and keep your head on swivel. So, Germans have been paid a lot to embarrass themselves over the decades. You don't really see a lot of other races being paid by pornographers thousands of dollars to eat their own shit and drink their own piss. It's kind of rare. I mean, it's taken off more and more here in America recently as people have become more and more desperate. But that's something that's been inflicted on the Germans that doesn't seem to go against their government codes on sensibility and politeness. Really makes you think, don't it? I feel the Norse. I actually really feel the Norse. And that doesn't mean that I feel the Odinists to the Vikings unless they express like a genuine appreciation for the history and not just some LARPer, like worse than LARPer, but instead like gang LARPer shit. I loved getting cuts and scars when I was younger. My body is covered in scars, and every time I get a cut, I'm just like, sweet, Every time I get a new scar, I'm just like, awesome. It's a kind of a point of pride, although as I've gotten older and older, now I don't see the necessity in it. It's no longer a point of so much pride, because pride itself is the mother of all sin. But I get it. I understand it completely. I think it has something to do with a higher admixture of pagan origin blood that allows you to be like, hell yeah, scars, hell yeah, cuts. And less, whooping about tattoos like some sort of a circus monkey. I don't know. It's not the sort of thing that intelligent people prize or prioritize. I think Ryan Reynolds, which is an actor I really, really hate. I really dislike Ryan Reynolds. I think that he is trying to cop a young Goldblum fit. And, that's... Jeff Goldblum's got a lot of swag. He's got a lot of riz, as the kids say. He's got a lot of aura. And Ryan Reynolds is... lame? I think that's a good word for it. He's lame. My favorite superhero is Deadpool. My favorite comic series is the Deadpool comic series. And what he did to, well, not him, it's not necessarily him, what the people that casted him did to Deadpool is extremely disappointing, in my opinion. And what does Ryan Reynolds do? Well, he basically voice acts for the character, and then the stunt man, just like in Spider-Man, just like in Deadpool, the stunt man covers everything else. You know, it's not like Captain America where you can very plainly see the person's jaw and face and eyes through the mask. It is a sort of mask that completely obscures the face, and the stuntmen are used for basically the entire movie. I don't respect that at all. Oh well, just, you know, I hate Hollywood in general, and Hollywood has gotten worse and worse and worse to the point where it literally has gone up in flames, you know? Who doesn't hate pedophiles, though? Who doesn't hate child abusers? Who doesn't hate evil? You know, very few people, actually. Most people, even the ones that are doing evil, usually have some sort of a justification. And there's a lot of pedophiles out in Los Angeles that like it projected onto the internet, but they themselves are not involved with any, hopefully, any children, because what they're doing is they're just trying to trigger people. And in fact, they're getting, like Vito and like Digibro, they get paid to, you know, be on, as Digibro has said, the front lines of this shit. And that shit is just, it's not normalization. Like, you can't normalize it. It's just trolling. That's what it is. It's trying to waste your energy, trying to waste your attention on that facade, on this cutout that's put on the internet, and you chase it down and you bark at it, but it doesn't actually, you can't get to it. And so your energy would be best spent tracking real pedophiles, or, you know, there's legitimately ways that you can do it through varieties of social media. You can find out how to get in touch and be a boots on the ground body and making sure that pedophiles, you know, are looked out for. You know, they get a little lonely sometimes, guys. You know, we need to make sure that pedophiles are well taken care of, you see? So anyways, don't spend your energy fuming online and get desensitized so you can't help. Put it towards pragmatism and reality. Just some advice from Cousin Wolftone. For instance, you know, online, like, it's not just dead internet theory. Like, I talk about AI infecting stuff a lot, but like, groypers are like 20% actually Americans, you know? It's like 80% people from around the world who are not in America. That's the crazy part about all that. That's the crazy part about America First in general, is like it's a bunch of like predatory people of all races that are attaching themselves to the American patriotism in order to, you know, find people that are vulnerable and like say, oh, we got your flag. And, you know, they come into the group and then they get abused. They get taken advantage of. As I said, it's the internet, and a lot of stuff on the internet is legitimately fake. Like, if you don't know that, you're probably going to end up falling for some drink bleach tactic that people employ on the internet all the time. And it's not going to be Trump's fault. It's not going to be Trump's fault. So, the IDF, when their soldiers die in battle, they go send people out with cattle prods to shove them up the dead soldiers' asses and shock their prostates until they come, and then they come into a jar, and then they take that jar back, and then they preserve it and try to, you know, see if any woman wants to, you know. You know. I would imagine they got that idea from a Warhammer 40k harvest of gene seed, and it's just some sort of a way of fantasizing about not being one of the lamest militaries on the planet. I don't know. I hope they're not trying to, you know, I say you know a lot. I apologize for that. That is my crutch word. I'm working on that. I hope that they're not trying to ape Warhammer 40k, you know? They got the Minotaur's Legion. So what else do you want, guys? The more you show and don't tell, the more your aura stacks. When I was dropping bath salts into my candle, it would have been much, much better if I just said nothing at all. But because of my wanting to talk, my yapping, this decreased my aura, you see. And this show is about talking, and the show is about thinking, but this is something to think about. Bridle your tongue. Watch your yapper. Don't drain your aura out. Show, don't tell. That works in business too. Show, don't tell. And people will be genuinely interested in your product. You don't advertise by lying to people and using the same words that everybody else has used that AI told you was a good idea. You don't succeed by employing those sorts of worn out, beaten down tactics. Everybody knows there's bandits up that road. They're not going down there. So anyways, when you mess up, don't ever take it out on the people around you. Just accept your responsibility. Quietly fix the problem. And then move forward. If you cannot do that, you cannot be a leader. That is a good leader quality, is the ability to accept responsibility, because that's all what it's about. Accept personal responsibility. Try not to mess up. And then accept when you do mess up and be honest about it. That's a good quality of leadership. You know, that's exactly why King David died of Chad. Because he accepted responsibility for what he had did. It took the prophet Nathan to come to him and tell him that he screwed up big time, and he used a parable to do so, and he was so upset that he was about ready to execute the person that he was the prophet Nathan was telling him about. And instead he revealed that's him. He had stolen the one sheep from his neighbor, despite the fact that he had countless sheep of his own. Unfortunately, Solomon ran up the credit card, and I think that has a lot to do with the long-term problems in the Middle East. It started stuff off, King Solomon's mines. And King Solomon's mind, it wasn't all there. It was way too materially obsessed, and it doesn't make any sense from an Abrahamic religion to do things like that at all. And that's exactly where you get the hypocrisy of Mohammed bin Salman, MBS. Mohammed bin Solomon, I guess. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't matter where you come from. What matters is what you do. Although, I retract that. It does matter a bit where you come from. I have have more awareness than pride, because as I said, pride is the mother of all sins. Have awareness of where you came from and how to maximize your strengths and minimize your flaws. Find out from your grandmother what's the best food for your system. Find out from your grandfather what the best, tools and methods and paths you could take. It isn't viable to just think that you can do anything and shoot out in any direction that you have the inkling of a guess about. It's good to find the wisdom of your ancestors who went through trial and error, and then find your own ways of going through trial and error to maximize your potential. It's the best thing to do. I swear, somebody has to be lying to Trump about the capability of the United States. Okay, so I've had multiple points on this, and I will say it is a very intelligent move to try and target Greenland during the solar maximum, because the summers, there's going to be a very long stretch of time. It's going to be 10 months of summer and then 2 months of extreme winter. And if they're smart about that, they can get some mining done, but it doesn't seem that Denmark wants to do those deals. It seems that Denmark is, they're clinging on to the one colonial empire that they really have. And Alberta doesn't seem very happy with that, and we don't know about the incoming macro government of Canada. But as I said, Canada's not viable. Invading Greenland and then invading Canada is not viable. You could try that, but it will legitimately fail due to time constraints and environmental constraints. It'll fail due to time constraints because the United States is ultimately a democracy, and even if Trump reigns for life, there will still be systems of democracy that come through that will upset long-term plans. And Greenland to Canada is a long-term plan. You know, it's just like the Nazis that were obsessed with going into the Arctic. That's a long-term plan. You can set up a few bases, but there's not going to be much viability for that. Somebody has to be lying to him about the capability that the U.S. has. Even if you drafted people to do these jobs, the squishy, huge truck Americans are not going to have the wherewithal to do it. And if you think Indians are going to be able to survive in Greenland, come on now. What are you, Christopher Columbus? It's not really, like, as I said, know where you came from, because that'll show you your strengths and weaknesses. And anybody who is adjusted to living in the equator will have a lower ability to stack body fat, will have lower body hair, will have all the things that prevent them from living in the Arctic. And it would be great if you could draft out Russians or Swedes or Canadians, but you're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to draft Canadians to mine their own backyards. It's not going to work. So, you know, people are trying to manipulate and screw them up, that's for sure. And one of these people is going to be DeSantis. DeSantis has already let Trump get raided by the FBI. And then he's lying and backtracking and saying, oh, he'll pardon him, he'll help him. But I'm praying that Trump sees through that crap, because DeSantis is a low IQ manipulator who takes his orders directly from Tel Aviv. And Trump doesn't need a middleman. They'll stab him in the back at any moment. Is already shown to be disloyal, and is already shown to want what Trump has without earning it. You know, I've mentioned Havana syndrome before, but if you don't believe that sound can cause brain damage, you've obviously not spent enough time around bikers or noise musicians. You know, the last 2 to 3 years show intense weakness, and we're only getting weaker. We're not getting stronger. That's certainly not what's happening when you see bigger trucks. When you see bigger and bigger trucks, when you see homes being constructed out of IKEA splinter wood, that's not a sign of us getting stronger. No, that's a sign of us getting immensely weaker. And much, much more intelligent people than I have said that the United States is a shoo-in for some form of occupation, whether it's legal or illegal, because we have such a large amount of land and we have so few people who have the training or legal ability to work the land that is being bought up by Bill Gates and by BlackRock. Like these absolute evil entities that I also pray Trump has the wherewithal to, shove, as they are the main progenitors of the issues that took place when he was gone. So they sucked up a lot of lucre that his policies generated. And I'm not sure if the only president to ever give people like a UBI style blank check is going to be very appreciative of that, because it's not good for the larger economy. There's a reason why he doesn't cut Social Security, because that Social Security goes right back into the economy, and it also goes into his merchandise. So, shoot, man. I would love to fight a Hell's Angel. I would love to fight a Hell's Angel. One-on-one, of course. Although they're immune to my special attack, because during the initiation rites, the pledge has piss and shit thrown all over them while getting beaten by some of the higher ranking members, and that is a test of heart for everybody involved. And it's a test of heart in a very, very nasty way, but it ultimately is the progenitor of the Hells Angels philosophy and culture. So, it'd be a fair fight. It'd be a fair fight. So I hope everybody's staying warm. It's like 40 degrees right now, and I'm enjoying it. I got my vest on, got my comforter. Everything will be okay. As long as people up north are staying nice and warm. Well, I'm taking off. See you later.